Yep, the nose. Yep.
With the students?
Yeah, and actually, students have been great. They really have been good, but, you know, like you'll walk through the lounge and.
So you don't have anything?
650.
Oh, you do?
Yes, they had to apply.
Okay.
But
They
we
had to
had,
say they wanted to.
we had about 150 international students who never went home. In March, they couldn't travel, and so they're still here.
Yeah, we have a number like that too.
Well, now they're, the proposals, their visas run out immediately after 4 years.
Well, that's, they have to renew them.
Yeah, well, this is a new. This is a new policy that the administration
Right.
put through.
There's gotta be a way that they can't travel.
One never knows.
Yeah, I actually sit on
Not the ideal.
Okay.
We only have about
Mark, hi. I didn't mean to not say hello to you. I saw your wife. Well, he's got a couple of State Department programs in North Carolina.
That's why I try to use my.
What is that map?
Main Street hardware stores, because if I see.
What's on it?
She ordered one for Robbie, but it didn't come in time to send it to Ken, so it was a transformer or something.
That's cool.
So I took it's actually kind of comfortable, like a waffle. I think this is one of the evil robots. I said, I'll take it.
Oh. Perfect.
Look at you.
Okay, start. Okay, I'm going to call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Today is October 1st. It's 3:30. First, we're going to start with courtesy of the floor. Is there any courtesy of the floor? Seeing none, please, when speakers come up, presentations, please state your name and who you're with when you give a report. We're going to change the agenda a little bit. We're going to do review of funding to support Northampton County higher education institutions. Ms. Smith, thank you.
Good afternoon. Our first speaker, we have Dr. Erickson, who is the president of Northampton Community College.
Well, good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me through the mask. Does that work? Okay. And then just click that to go?
This arrow right here.
Okay, good. And I will tell you, this is the first time I've actually done a live, in-person, presentation since we started this whole pandemic. So thanks for having us here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for considering our proposal, for supporting us. Since I don't get many opportunities to talk to County Council, I thought I'd give you a quick update, a little bit about the college as part of what we're doing here. So if you can follow along with the PowerPoint. I will start the same way I start every presentation I've ever done, because I think it's central to who we are. We are a college of the community, which means we're changing every day, depending upon the needs of the students, the workforce needs of employers, and the community that we serve. Lots of great examples of that. If you look at our line workers program, this is their graduation picture. When PPL said we need line workers, 6 months later, up go the polls. We're doing line workers training, not just for them, but all sorts of employers throughout the valley. We have about 30,000 students when you count our credit and non-credit program students. We're the most affordable college in all of Pennsylvania. And while we are your local community college, I want you to understand we are a national leader among community colleges as well. We've won lots of national awards. I'm not going to go through those national and regional awards, but we were named one of the top 150 community colleges in the country. We've been in Achieving the Dream College 3 times, #1 ranked for various things like our online dual enrollment program, and very committed to issues of sustainability, as evidenced by our EPA Green Power Award. We have a great faculty, 3 times in the past 15 years, the Faculty Member of the Year in the state of Pennsylvania, came out of Northampton Community College. And that's an award for all colleges, not just community colleges. So we're awfully proud of them. Who are our students? Many of them are the first in their family to go to college. Most of them, about 80%, work weekly. 30% of them actually work 30 hours a week or more. Average age 25, median age 21. Our youngest student who just graduated was 13. Our oldest was 84. The 13-year-old's going on in mathematics to Lehigh. 44% of our students are students of color, and 90% of them stay in the community. So make no mistake about it, we are training the workforce for the Lehigh Valley. In Northampton County, literally 1 out of every 4 high school graduates in this county comes directly to us to attend the college. We have a very large private scholarship program to try to ensure access to the college. We dispense a lot of federal aid, $46 million, but we also have 850 private scholarships that we give out annually as well. And as affordable as we are, more than a half of our students need financial aid to attend. And I think most compelling, 40% of our students tell us, if you don't exist, I cannot go to college. So that's central to who we are. We're the largest and most diverse college in the Lehigh Valley, actually in northeastern Pennsylvania, and we are committed to addressing the needs of the workforce as well. And we train students in a wide range of fields. You pick it, anything from welding to philosophy, workshops, seminars, certificates, diplomas, both on the non-credit and credit side, 110 different programs of study altogether, and lots of career opportunities for our students. We have a lot of new initiatives we put in place. We're not just the place we want you to come to, we want you to be successful. So we put in place guided pathways to help students find their path. What are they going to do with their life? College connection specialists reaching back into the high schools, helping with those connections between them and the college. Success navigators assigned to each student to help them on their journey to make sure that they can be successful. And a growing dual enrollment program, which has grown about 30%. So a lot going on. Our students go on to great places. A lot of the other colleges you'll be talking about today. But literally, we've had students go on to Harvard, Swarthmore, you name it. It's a great story. We also interview our students 6 months after they graduate to find out, have you found a job in your field of study or gone on to a 4-year college? And these are the results. You can't get a whole lot better than 97%, so we're feeling pretty good about that. We have a growing amount of manufacturing, advanced manufacturing activity going on at the college. In our Hartzell Center for Advanced Technology, we actually have Victolic that has part of their training center embedded in our center on campus. We have a new Follett Family Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which is all about imagining the future and helping our students become entrepreneurs moving forward. So a lot of good things are going on at the college, but at the heart of today's discussion is how hard this pandemic has been for the college, and most especially for the students that we serve. Last spring, we pivoted quickly to completely online. We did well. We had our faculty and staff calling students, 9,000 phone calls to make sure they were doing okay. Our retention of students actually exceeded the prior year because all of the extra touches that we put into place. As we've moved to this fall, we're 20% on ground in hybrid or on-ground classes. Obviously, part of what we do, automotive, welding, they can't really be done remotely. We have a lot of laboratories or labs on campus, but the lecture will be online. So I think we're doing all the right things, but many of our students worked in hospitality or in retail, so they've lost their jobs. And they're struggling. Many of them don't have computers. They don't have Wi-Fi connections. So we helped with hotspots, with computers that we provided to our students, and really went the extra mile to make sure they can be successful. But for many of them, the question now is, where's my next meal? How do I pay my rent? Not just, how do I pay my college bill? So the needs of the students are great, but so are the needs of the employers. We are very connected to the employers in this county, listening carefully to them about what the needs are coming out of this pandemic and what are the needs they have right now. The great flexibility of the college to respond in real time to those needs, I think is critically important right now. We're engaged with the workforce board with a series of programs to help the unemployed get back into whatever field they want to go into. And we're in conversations with employers to make sure that the gaps they have are the places that we're putting our energy moving forward. So there's a lot of need, both on the workforce end and on the part of our students. The way that we can make that happen is by making sure these students have the resources to come. Like I said, as affordable as we are, for many of our students, they need financial aid, and we're doing everything we can to help them. But even with that, this fall, we dropped hundreds of students who should be at the college. If they come to the college, we will change their lives, literally transform the trajectory of their lives for them and for their families and the communities they're in. So we come to you today asking for support for those students to help provide this support in tuition aid for credit and non-credit programs, meeting workforce needs, but allowing those students to reach their full potential, not just for their sakes, but for their families' sakes, for this county's sake, and for our community's sake. So I thank you for listening to my pitch to you. I tell it to you with great passion and heart. That's the kind of place we are. That's the kind of place and the students that we serve. I can guarantee you, any dollar you give to us will be used for one purpose, and that's to serve this community and to serve Northampton in a way that's going to make you proud of us. So these are a list of some of the areas that we have programs in. Like I said, it's across the board. We have wraparound services, tutoring, counseling. All those things are still going on in the midst of a pandemic. Monroe County, for our Monroe campus, gave us $200,000. So, boy, I know that you guys can do that as well for here. So just a little competition there. So with that, we need your support. Our students need your support now more than ever. So I thank you for listening, and I thank you for considering this pitch. So any questions you have of me?
Thank you for your presentation. Is there any questions from the committee or board?
Mr. Lott,
Yes, Mr. McGee is on the phone. I believe Mr. McGee has a question.
just one question. Did I miss something, or are you specifically saying exactly what the money's going to be used for?
Right. The dollars we're looking for really are for scholarship support to fill the gaps for students that are looking at, programs on our credit side or our non-credit side. So it could be a truck driving program. It could be a line working program. It could be a variety of programs. We're looking to make sure that we can fill the hole for those students who don't have the dollars they need right now, in many cases because of this pandemic, to come to college and move their life forward.
Thank you.
Is there parameters or specific, is there a benchmark set, like to under a certain amount that they make, or qualifications, I guess, is what I'm looking for?
Yeah, we use a need-based formula when we look at the needs of our students. So when we are providing them with aid, it's based upon the need of that particular individual. So we try to maximize all the sources of revenue that we have. What I will tell you is that this $200,000 will help us fill the gap for many students that right now is not being filled. Those students that I talked about that couldn't come early, we have programs starting next Monday. We have programs starting 2 weeks from now. We have programs starting in December. And we have programs literally starting across the board throughout the semester. So those are the opportunities where we can use a need-based approach to really find out who are the students or employers that we can help with making sure that these sorts of tuition supports are provided in a way that maximize their impact for the students, for Northampton County, and the workforce. Did I
Okay,
answer?
appreciate that. Well, yeah, you did, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate what the college does for the county and for surrounding areas. But I guess I someday maybe I should just reach out to you after the meeting. I'd just like to wrap my head around those formulas. I just for an understanding of myself, just for, you talk to people and people, how do they qualify? Which ones aren't qualifying? Which employers are qualifying? Which employers are not qualifying? Those rules, I guess, is there a playbook for those rules, or
Yeah, I mean,
something that's publicly known, or or is it something that changes from year to year, from based on grant to grant? That's all. And you may not be able to answer all those questions, but those are just trying to understand, who qualifies, who doesn't, which companies qualify, which companies don't, and similar to something simple.
Sure. I mean, most of the aid that we're looking at dispensing that we're asking for today is going to be student-based, but we'll work with employers too to find out where gaps are and then figure out what resources do students have to actually take those courses, and then figure out how to best apply these dollars in a way that maximizes their impact. In many cases, it's $500, $1,000 that is a difference between a student coming or not coming to us, yet the impact of that is huge in terms of what that means for that student, finding that career, finding that job, and going out and making a really big difference. So we have a pretty sophisticated office of financial aid that helps us look at all these parameters to make sure that we're doing this in the best possible way. And I'm happy to share those results on the other end of this so you can see how we expended these dollars and what the real impact will have been.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. Is that the end of your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. To kind of just add on to what Bill's saying, and then I'll go to you, Mr. Myers. What I was going to ask you, so does this just go into a general pot? Are you carving this money out and putting it into your scholarship pot, for lack of better, in your scholarship funds? Or, how is this money just going to blend in with the rest and do your mission, which is a great mission? I don't think anybody here, questions the mission. But we'll kind of want to know exactly where is this money getting put towards scholarships and only scholarships, or is this going to a broader, the big focus?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say when I say scholarships, I mean, we're looking at using these dollars because this is the biggest need that we have right now to really address the issue of access, whether it be to our truck driving program, our line worker program, our criminal justice program, you name it. The numbers of students that come to us who fall short by, like I said, sometimes $500, $1,000, and that money will make the difference. So we would put it in place, utilizing our financial aid processes to apply it in the way that's going to make the biggest difference, but only for Northampton County residents, obviously, right? And we'll have an inclination to try to also help on the workforce end, Northampton County companies, right? If they have a need and we've got to be helping with financial assistance to provide access into those programs, we'll be thinking that way as well. So,
Okay, thank you. Councilman Myers?
Okay, I'm somewhat confused, but I'm not trying to be.
Okay.
The money that we're giving to you should be access to any student that's in Northampton County for whatever their need is. Doesn't need to be based on the option that it has to be for work-related. This is educational purposes, correct?
Correct.
Because I wasn't quite getting what Bill was asking, but we're basically just giving you money to allocate to wherever needs it.
Well, to allocate it for access to students for programs that serve their ability to come into the college and meet their educational needs, many of which are workforce development programs, others which are programs that allow them to leapfrog from us onto four-year colleges. So it's really a combination of those two.
Yeah, I don't want undue burden put on you because the community college itself is based to be able to do things for various companies in the area, whereas the other educational services that schools we have are Lafayette, Moravian, Lehigh, that they're more or less going to be taking their money and helping their students out.
Right.
There's no pressure on them to have to do something for PP&L or any other company.
Right. I mean, what I would say, I mean, it's part of our DNA to be responsive to this community. That's why we're a college of the community. And the two sides of that are making sure our students have access to programs so they can come, get educated, and go out into the workforce. The other part is to being responsive in those programs where we see a need important to the economic development of this county.
I understand that. I was just wanting to make sure that it's not just
That it's
geared
not so-
on
right.
one specific or one area that we need to approve this, because the simple fact is their mission is a lot different than the other schools. You know, their base is to generate, whether it be nursing or whatever else they have to do. Their needs are a little different than the other colleges. All right. Thank you for your intel.
Yeah, and I would agree with that statement. So,
Yeah,
having been a 4-year college president and now in my 9th year as a 2-year college president,
Well, as a guy who worked at one of the colleges, you're like night and day when it comes to that aspect of it. You know, and I just want to make sure that the rest of council understood this is why what your mission is a lot different from my days having to deal with you when I was on school board. All right, thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, Heidi, I just wanted to ask you, I think piggybacking on Mr. Lott and Mr. McGee's question, as far as the money goes, do you have a specific line item in your budget, like as each budget has line items, that is spent specifically for training as opposed to, like, let's say your general cash fund or reserve? So would this money go into a specific line item as per how you would identify it in your
Yeah, I mean,
budget?
it would probably go into scholarship funds, right? And scholarship funds are then dispersed both for our more traditional credit programs, but also for our non-credit programs, which are more like the, you know, many of these certificate programs or shorter term trainings in many cases, which are a high priority for us right now.
Okay, and I think the other thing was too, as far as the qualifications, and you described your general philosophy, but is a fair amount of that income-based for the applicant?
Yeah, I mean, the
Is
initial,
that pretty much a bottom line?
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean, everybody would take money if it was available.
sure, yeah,
Right.
no,
I
we
mean, I just
get
wondered-
that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you know, many of our students apply for and receive, we got about 43% of our students that are Pell eligible, so federal grants. So that provides a nice barometer for understanding family income and the other sources they have. Having said that, we sit down individually with students with real-time needs, in many cases created by the pandemic, but not captured at the time of their FAFSA form, but making sure there's a legitimate need that exists, so we're applying the dollars where they truly can make a difference.
If I could follow up, you mentioned about companies, and I agree. I mean, I think part of your mission from day one has been for local employers or for wherever the student ends up going. Do you get a fair amount, even in this time, from especially the larger employers, particularly who are looking for certain 2-year program skills? Are they contributing to you to help defray the cost that they would normally pick up to train employees?
Yeah, I mean,
So are you getting a fair amount of dollars from some of these bigger employers?
I mean, certainly a number of the larger employers in the county are part of our larger strategy for fundraising, and we get some of our dollars from those. To be perfectly honest, I think the most dollars that we get are from citizens in this county that simply get it. They understand the power of this community college to make a difference in the lives of our students and in the impact on this county moving forward. So, any other questions? Yep.
I have a question about your lineman school. Are you the only community college in the area that's doing the lineman program?
Correct.
Because in Jersey, it's Somerset, so they'll be coming to you for Pennsylvania. Is that the way that works?
Yeah, I mean, we're the only in this community, which simply means that El Tri-C, the other community college in this county, doesn't have a line workers program.
Right.
So,
It's limited as to where they have it, because I know in Jersey, they go to Somerset County. I was surprised we had it at community college. It's a good program, thanks.
yeah, thank you. Other questions?
Nope.
All right.
Appreciate the presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Excuse me.
Well, and thank you very much for your consideration on behalf of all of our students. So, thanks.
Thank you again for your presentation.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tom.
Dr. Erickson, I think we have to bring you back more often. A lot of questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
So we'll bring Dr. Erickson back again sometime because it seems like there's a lot of questions. I just want council to be aware that in addition to the obvious educational services they provide, we have really good working relationships with all of our higher education institutions. Example, we've done the climate summit at Lehigh University, and we've done complete census count meetings at Lafayette, and we work with the community college for different workforce meetings all the time, and Moravian College helps with the docent program downtown Bethlehem. So they are all engaged in the community, and so we're very much in value of all the relationships we have with our institutions. So next up, I'd like to bring up Kim Nimo, who is the Director of Risk Management from Lehigh University.
It's a tough act to follow. So, do you want me to put this in the slide mode? Is that good, or, yeah? Yep. Okay. So the hardest part of this, I think, is putting the glasses on and not fogging up while I'm reading. So let's see if we can make this work. So just like the previous speaker, this is my first presentation since March 12th. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. A little bit about Lehigh and where we stand right now, and I really can't see through these things. If you don't mind, I'll just lower this a little bit, so if you're okay with that. So a little bit about Lehigh. This is a whole new environment for us. The university has kind of reinvented itself in the last 7 months. I joined Lehigh 3 years ago, knew the Lehigh Valley, and so this whole concept of what the university has been doing is totally different than it's been in the last 7 months. We've completely reinvented ourselves, and I think you'll hear that from some of the other universities and schools that are here today. How we're doing things now is really done by task forces. It's really done by committees. Everything has to be done with COVID in the background, and it's very different than how we did things in the past. So we're very different now than we were 7 months ago. Right now, we'd be a thriving part of the Bethlehem community. We'd have students shopping, going to the restaurants, probably to the bars. There'd be a lot of activity in the outreach part, students working in the community. We don't have any of that. It's really kind of sad to see how things have changed. So right now, we have about 3,500 students on campus. Only about 1,100 of those live on campus. We've only invited the freshmen to come back, which paints a whole different image. I mean, you've all walked to your college campuses. It's like a ghost town. In many cases, we're having to shut buildings down that were previously open because we have an infection on a floor and we have to close the building down for a couple days to clean it out. So it's a very sort of sad environment. If you go to a campus, it's very different. So the opening plan involved a lot of risk. And a decision was made, let's invite some students back. Let's have some in-person classes and see how that goes. And I think if you had to take the pulse of this 3 or 4 weeks ago, things were looking great. And I would tell you today, things are not looking so great as of today. Things are the cases are starting to spike. So decisions have to be made, whether to stay open, whether to close. And the impact on the community is huge. Restaurants, bars, just all the vendors that students would go to buy things. It's a very painful experience. So that's the outward look of how things look at Lehigh. The ties to the community, I think, I sit on most of the committees. I sit on the COVID response team. I sit on I'm the head of emergency management. I'm on the business continuity team. I lead that. I chair the emergency management team at Lehigh. Every team has to make a hard decision. So what I'm going to show you is sort of a peek behind the curtain of what's going on financially at Lehigh. I got clearance from the folks up at Lehigh to say, can you share some of these numbers? And I thought it's important for you to see financially the impact of all of this, because we don't read about that in the newspaper. We don't see what's going on. I think probably I will just say today the hardest part of the university is managing the health and wellness center. That is the hardest part. They are the folks that are dealing with calls from parents, students, media, everyone calling in, what's going on? You have 4 more cases today. I heard you have 3 more cases today. So 3 cases, just to give you a sense, last week led to 69 people in quarantine and 11 people in isolation. So that ripple effect is now growing exponentially. So let's talk a little bit about where we are, where we should have been and where we are today. So the budget for if everything was going well, we'd have a total fall enrollment of about 5,300 students. And right now we're at about 5,172. So actually that's a pretty good number if you think about it, just in terms of what we were expecting and where we are today. Just to give you a sense, last year, if we were not to have growth expectations, we would be at 5,169. So we're actually above where we were last year in enrollment. The big difference is that a lot of these students, about 60% of them are remote only. So they receive a 10% discount in their premium in their enrollment for staying completely remote. So we have an enrollment shortfall, we have no tuition increase, we have a 10% discount for students being fully remote. Housing is a big part of this, right? So we have far fewer people in housing. Our COVID-related expenses are dramatic. I'll show you some of those in a minute. So we have a decrease in fees, the donations are down, and the investment market has been pretty good, but it's still down for the year. So overall, this is just sort of a snapshot of where we were expecting to be and where we are today. On the housing front, we had to set aside about 150 rooms for quarantine. So that's an entire part of the campus that was set aside just to quarantine. I can tell you right now, we're almost reaching that number. So we reached over 100. I would guess that by the end of next week, we will have reached that capacity, which will mean we will have to probably shut down the campus. So that's a dramatic impact on the university. So we're down in the capacity for the university of 63% in housing. So if you look at the fall numbers and then you project out for the spring, if things stay the same, which we're planning for the university to kind of take the same approach, freshmen only, discount for staying away, for being fully remote. If you look at these numbers and you plan it out for the end of the fall semester, spring semester, you're looking at an overall budget loss for the university of about $43 million. So the biggest numbers to me are the students are not here. They're not here on campus, in the houses, buying food, spending money in the community. This number is dramatic, the impact that it has on Bethlehem, the impact that it has on Allentown, all the communities surrounding, in Easton, all the places that they go to. That has a dramatic impact. And the last slide I'll show is, these are the COVID-related expenses. So I sit on multiple task forces, and if you look at just the sheer numbers that we're spending, it's relatively significant. There's no one area that sort of says, well, that's manageable, we can kind of handle that. Just for instance, our study abroad international program, right about in the middle of the page, they're solely driven by international students coming here and studying, right? Or us sending students overseas to go to a program. That's not happening. There's no international travel right now. So even though that number seems relatively small on this page where there are much larger numbers, it's a huge impact to that department. And that department's not really working. They don't have any students going anywhere, and nobody's coming here. So it's a dramatic impact. Where I see the biggest loss from just where I work day to day is, I kind of put 2 arrows there. On the Health and Wellness Center for the supplies of PPE and renovations, we had to grow our Health and Wellness Center in 3 weeks. We had to expand it to make a sick area and then a COVID-related area. So we had to basically build a whole new Health and Wellness Center in just about a month, which is dramatic. And then just the sheer number of, the personal protective gear, signage for the campus, all the sanitizers, everything involved. That's an outlay that was not expected, plus there's no revenue coming into the university. So I thought, I was talking to Mark about, Mark Hartney, and the other folks that I work with at FEMA, at PEMA, and they all come back and they have a similar question. They say, Lehigh isn't really, if you look at Lehigh, just in terms of its financial standing, you guys are doing great. You have a big endowment, you have all these students that come from New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, they're still coming, right? So you guys are rolling in the money. And I said, well, that's not exactly the way it works. Lehigh is very tuition driven. And it's all driven by students coming to campus, paying their tuition, buying the books, staying in the housing, and buying food. An endowment is basically made up of about 3,500 people who've given money over the years to the university. So if you gave a check for $100,000 or $1 million, you might say, I want that money to go specifically to this program over the next 10 years, right? And that's all you want it to do. And you might write a check for $10 million and say, I want this money to go to housing and build 3 housing units. And that's what I want the money to be used for, and so on and so on and so on. So that money accumulates over the years. It's invested very well, but it's not a checking account. We can't go to it and just say, write a check, because you have to then go to the 3,500 people that have given money and say, can we reappropriate your money for a specific thing? So it doesn't work that way. So the endowment is very specific in what it can do. So we kind of really put that aside. I'd love it if it was a checkbook, because then I would actually go out and buy all the stuff I need to keep people safe and do everything I need to do. So where does this money that we were seeking and that we would certainly appreciate at Lehigh go to? Well, this is just a fraction of some of the things we could use it for. But certainly, the students, we have students working on campus who have no jobs. There's nothing really for them to do. So they're struggling. Financially, they're struggling. The department doesn't have a budget. We still don't have an approved budget for the year. So there's no budget to pay them. That's a big portion. We have hundreds of students who basically have no money, which is a big part of it. But my perspective is there's a huge need to keep people safe. I want to keep the university open. I want to be able to keep them safe, whether it's finding ways to get more personal protective equipment, more testing done. There has to be a way to do this right, but we have to do it in a way that it involves resources. So even though it may seem, when you look at these numbers that run into the tens of millions of dollars, what difference is $200,000 going to make, or an amount equal to that? It's significant, because a department or a certain part of the university can certainly use it. So that's all I had. I very much appreciate your time inviting me here. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much. That was a very informative report. It answered a couple of my questions. I mean, one of my things I've been struggling with since I saw this is, how do we justify giving universities this kind of money when they have large endowments? Not so much the community college, but you guys. So I'm glad you clarified that. I think it's important we know where the money's going. Yeah. That it's actually going to do the health and welfare of the students. I can't say enough how I appreciate we have great institutions in the Lehigh Valley that really help our community out in so many ways. So there's no need to talk too much about that. We know how fortunate we are to have the Lehigh, Moravian, and our community college in Lafayette. That being said, we just have to be able to justify in our head why we're going to give, a university. And I think you answered some of my concerns. So I'm going to open it up to anybody on the committee or on the general board. Yes, Ms. Zorinsky, go ahead.
So I wanted, sorry.
You're right here.
There's something wrong with my microphone. Awesome. Anyway, the point of the matter is, so I wanted to ask about these 69 cases that you have, and you have them in quarantine, because I saw that you have 6 people sharing a bathroom. Are people sharing suites?
No.
No.
So if you're living on campus, that's one of the big reasons why there's a housing shortage, because the housing numbers are so far down. Everyone got a single room.
Yes, that's what they did at my son's college. But I thought that it was only the freshmen on campus.
Correct.
So it is.
It's only freshmen.
And still there's a housing shortage because everybody has a single room.
Well, I wouldn't call it a housing shortage. I'm saying, we have a housing.
Shortfall.
Right, exactly. It's more of a shortfall. We have plenty of extra rooms. The problem is we're only allowing freshmen on campus, and everyone gets a single room.
Right. And do you have any contact tracing in place? Like, can you see how these students might have been, spread the infection so that you can prevent that in the future? Because I know there's schools like University of North Carolina that have a pretty complicated system, and I wouldn't think that Lehigh is as big as UNC, but they have each person wear a band, and it shows where they've been all day, or they swipe a card, and they show where everybody's been. Do you have that, or that's?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I chair most of those decisions. So I mean, we could be here honestly, we could be here all day because I've evaluated every band in the country. I've evaluated every system that's available, and they each have their pitfalls, right? So, I'll just put one out there, for instance. There are several companies that give you a band. It looks a lot like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, right? And you have to wear it, right? So most of the people that you want to track are not going to wear it because they're the ones that are going to go into the party Friday night or Saturday night. And I mean, you know what? I'm taking this thing off.
So they'll just ditch it.
I'm going to put it right here on this table, and I'm going to go and party, and then I'm going to put it back on Monday when I go back to class.
There you go.
So that's part of the problem. And so I oversee most of the contact tracing. However, I will say that the Bethlehem Health Bureau does some of it. The problem with all of this is a resource issue. The Bethlehem Health Bureau only has a few people making phone calls, doing all that. They can't keep up with all this work, and we can't keep up with it, which is why we may have to shut down campus. That's part of the problem is 3 cases lead to 70 people in quarantine. You have to call all those people. There's a form you have to fill out. You have to type in where they were. The logistical nightmare behind all of this is significant. We're doing it, but it's strenuous. We're working late into the night. We're working weekends, just trying to manage what we have in place. So there are lots of solutions. We're using technology in interesting ways. We're actually using, when you come into this building, I'm sure you all have a phone on you. It's emitting a signal, and it's picking up on these Wi-Fi receivers.
Right.
So even though you may not, an IT person in this room can figure out that you were in this room because you're pinging to that, your phone.
Yeah, there's a specific app
And we're
that can
doing
do that too.
Well, we're doing it without you having to download an app. We can actually tell density in a room or in a building using very simple technology, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
But and you can tell who specifically was there then too?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you're
Within,
That
what the
kinda
problem is not that I can't tell that you were there. The problem is how close were you to it? So right now I can only get to within 50 feet. With the band, I could get within 3 feet. But the
So-
band would have cost us another $5 million.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So the money that you're requesting is specifically for these 2 line items?
Well, so that was me sitting at the computer thinking, okay, if I had to justify to a group of individuals where I would apply money, it would be to keep people safe on campus, to keep the students safe. So it would be in PPE, emergency response sort of arena. I could pick from any one of these and say, if anyone felt this is a better choice, I would slide it there as well. The need is almost, it's almost too big to list at this
Right.
point.
So this is my last question. If you were to shut down next semester, what would be the implications? Like, what would happen as a result to the college?
Yeah, the reality
Worst-case
is,
scenario.
if for a faculty member or student, the experience would be no in-person class. So you could still live near campus, which is going to happen anyways, right? Because we have probably 3,500 students living in Bethlehem right now. And we know that because they're all going to the bars and they're going to the restaurants and they're having parties. The LUPD's shutting down parties every weekend. That's the reality. What you would notice the most is the freshmen wouldn't be on campus. That's the biggest thing you would notice. But that's the biggest impact.
So you wouldn't actually shut down for the whole?
No, when I say shut down is there would be
You would
no
go
in-person
remote.
classes.
All remote, so you'd still employ your professors and
That's
everybody
right.
else.
The other-
To some extent.
Well, so, truth be told, if that were to happen, the reality is the university may take more drastic cost-cutting steps. Reduction in force, those things, but those are like the last gasp choices to take, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori?
Ms. Hefner?
First, I'd like you to call the president of Temple University and talk to him about that 10% reduction for all virtual, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll let our
That would do
president do
me a
that.
great favor. I tried to get her in Moravian, she wouldn't go. But in all seriousness, I noticed that you have 2 pools for the NCAA. Why is that? There's a smaller amount and a larger amount. And it's literally listed as the same thing. Then third down, and then under housing room, it says athletics, NCAA revenue.
Yeah, so when I asked athletics to break that down, they sort of broke it down into 2 categories that I didn't want them to break it down. I wanted to lump them up, but I just didn't adjust it for the slides, so my apologies for that. So they're looking really at two different things. One is events, like hosting things at Stabler.
Right,
You know,
or the revenue that you get from the mountaintop room or
yeah, I mean,
whatever.
it's more like rental of space for an athletic activity. The other is more football, baseball, bigger.
Ticket sales, et cetera.
The other one is more like an event, renting out Stabler because that's really in the athletic department, renting out Stabler for the auto show, or hosting a conference, that kind of thing. So it's really, one is conference-related, event-related, the other one is really the sports program in general. The ticket sales, the vending machines, the food trucks, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I guess I have like 4 questions, I apologize in advance. So along with that, where's NCAA stepping up to help all of you? No offense, but I'm sure they have a little surplus.
Yeah, I mean, that's a discussion that goes probably above my paycheck.
Okay, just
no, but-
throwing it out there. I'm not saying we wouldn't
Well,
give you
and-
money, but I would just think it's time for them to give back too.
Well, no, I'll give you one example where we're really feeling the pinch there is, so athletic programs are shut down right now for the Patriot League. But if they do choose to go back into play in the spring, the NCAA requires two tests before each game and 1 test following each game per athlete.
Cost.
So just doing the math, if we were to do our athletes, there's no bucket of money for us to do this. We have to pay for it ourselves. It's not reimbursable by insurance. We're looking at 30,000 tests just in the spring.
Jeez, just
So-
for sports.
So 30,000 tests at an average of somewhere between $90 and $140 a test. I mean, so the athletic department doesn't have that kind of money. So it would come out of university revenue.
So tell your friend to talk to the NCAA for that.
Yeah.
Do you, I know there used to be a Lehigh Valley consortium of all the schools,
The
and I
alternate group.
assume that you're part of larger college and university consortiums. So what are you guys doing collectively to try to get funds, grants, tap into some federal dollar? Or I guess the question is, are you? Because I know you're all at different levels of size and.
No, and that's a great question, because in a way, it's almost as though everyone has to look out for themselves, because the funds are so specific, right? We're not all going, but that's why we come to a meeting like this. That's why we go to FEMA. That's why we go to PEMA. That's why we have relationships like that, where we're looking for funds that have been appropriated by the government, and that's a source of help. But universities are struggling all over. I mean, I have friends that work at some of the Ivy Leagues and other places. They're struggling just as much as we are in a way, but just proportionally different. I can't imagine having this discussion if you're at Princeton or Yale and their endowments are in the $20 billion range. I can't imagine what that discussion is like.
Right.
But I know my colleagues are struggling because departments are short of funds. So hiring freezes, pay cuts, all this kind of thing. They're real changes to the environment.
And my last question is, who and how many furloughs have you had to do to date? Because I assume with the shutdown in housing, dining, have you maintained those employees? Have you
Yeah,
cut them
yeah,
down?
we haven't
or
had
have you
to lay
furloughed
anyone off. No layoffs, yeah. Furloughs were relatively small. I think we were in the 70 range. And I think really what it turned out to be is about 17 individuals. And you can kind of imagine, someone maybe in a department where you have, like housing, you're not having to clean that. There's certain things you just don't need to do because there's nobody there, right? But most of the folks are back at work now. So
Thank you, thank you.
I don't want to forecast how things would be in the spring if we can't reopen.
No, I wondered if you had to lay people off because you didn't have the housing filled.
No layoffs.
And are the fraternity houses closed? Is that considered part of housing?
Because we own them.
Oh, you, okay.
So we made the decision to not.
How'd that go over?
I can tell you, not well, but I can tell you that they're very active, so. They're very, because they're all here. They're all
Yeah.
living here. They're
Right.
just not in our houses.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Heckman, did you have something before? No? Okay, we'll go to, I saw you before.
I just
Chair.
wanted to ask you, you mentioned the endowment, because that comes into play.
Yeah.
And you said that, it goes for different things, and I can understand that with the amounts some of the folks are contributing. But what is your overall endowment at this point?
Well, what I know is that it's somewhere around 1.5 billion.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
well, and let me just say, I just ask because I first of all, the general heading education, I don't think anybody here is going to argue that, we want to help with the safety. And what the resolution we were given says this money would go for the safety of their students and faculty. Now, the first speaker from the community college spoke about scholarships. And I don't think he really said much about safety. And I didn't hear much about a specific line item when I asked him. I guess I see, and what I think what Ms. Hefner said is true. I mean, look, I like sports as much, if not more, than the next person. But the idea of the taxpayers subsidizing, some of it would be. Now, I do think, and I, again, what Ms. Zirinsky was saying, the safety of your students and faculty, and I know you said there's some students who are on the freshman class.
Yep.
And I know you can't track where they're going or what they're doing all the time. I mean, there's no fail-safe. I mean, there's no 100%. But if you were aware of a freshman party, and it's at one of the places in Bethlehem, could that, I mean, would that have an impact on the students' standing at the university? I mean, I guess the thing is, if you specifically know that student X was with a group of 50 people partying and in the city, is there any kind of action you would take? Because that impacts the safety of the entire community.
No,
I mean,
you're
and part of
absolutely
my
right.
thing isn't just the schools, we're Northampton County government. So when your students are here, just like most of the NACAC students, I would say probably live here, but the other colleges and universities, you have a lot of people coming in, and that's fine, and it's great, and they use the businesses in our community, but at the same time, and you've certainly seen it, I know everybody in the collegiate field has seen this, where it just went wild this September across the country when the kids were coming in. I mean, Villanova, everywhere, they were having just, and I get it, even adults are doing it. But I just wondered if you have procedures in place.
No,
You don't have to go through all, if you have them, that's great.
It's almost as though you were listening to the phone call I was on right before I got here, because that's exactly the issue, is our LUPD, our chief of police,
Yeah.
Jason Schiffer, who probably many of you know, he said, look, there has to be a line in the sand. I mean, so code of conduct, student code of conduct is right now, as of today, zero tolerance.
And that's being enforced by
Today,
the campus.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's the way we thought about it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago when we started. But, if we found a party, shut it down. But now if we find a party and we shut it down, those kids are going
No.
home. There's no, right, there's no refund.
Well,
So-
no, and look, I mean,
But this actually goes further than that.
that's
This
part of
actually goes to.
education, learning that life can be tough sometimes.
No, but
We've
the
all
reality is we're
done
using this
school.
technology to figure out density.
Yeah.
Well, let's use it now. And let's, for instance, you study in the library, and you study there and you read your books and you get tired of wearing this thing. Well, no, you're in the library, you put your mask on. I don't care if there's nobody next to you. So zero tolerance, you leave. Yes, there are procedures, but what you bring up is really, everything is done. We never had these policies before. So
I
we're
understand.
reinventing everything we're doing. And we're having to write a policy before we can actually enforce it, right? So you kind of have to go and write the policy so that then if someone argues it, you can say, well, it's written right here. So, and so writing the policy, sending out a publication, notice university-wide, which we'll probably send out in the next half an hour or so. And then
Well, it sounds like you're implementing and you're working.
we're trying.
I mean, we're all in a new environment. I mean, when we first got the COVID money, a concern was we had to get it out by the end of December. I never worried about people coming in asking for money by the end of December. That was never my problem. And I have no problem with the money going to the education facilities in we're very lucky to have so many in our area. I guess I have to wrestle with, and it's not a game changer for me, but it's just, it seems like we took a very egalitarian way of how we're going to dispense this money. 200,000 for this, 200,000 for this one, 200,000 for this one. And I mean, it speaks to the quality and to the reputation of a Lehigh University. We're sort of subsidizing, a Mercedes owner versus a Chevrolet owner. And I'm fine with doing that. I don't know what the process was. It seems like we just said, okay, everybody that comes in, you'll get $200,000 to get up to this amount. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that, but I mean, if you're saying that you're going to be moving this money specifically into areas for the safety of the students and faculty, and I know any of us that ever worked on budgets can stretch line items and amounts. I've worked on budgets in the past, and you can justify just about anything. Fly swatters, I mean, it's amazing what you can justify. But I'm hoping in good faith that regardless of the school, regardless of your endowments, one, that the money would be used primarily for safety and for the students and the faculty. And two, and this would go for any of the others, and I didn't say it so much for NACAC because I'm familiar with NACAC's situation over the years, but where you have endowments, I mean, I know you said they put it in for a certain thing, and I get that. But I believe this is one of those things, as you mentioned, that's unique, and we're all in a new situation. How many times do we have global pandemics? Fortunately, not often. But I think, are you planning to go to them and saying, we may ask you to loosen up the strings on some of this money, because if you have money set aside for a building fund or something, but you're not going to be building for a while, but you have this need here, I mean, wouldn't that be part of the university's mission, is to go and say, like you're doing with us, here's our situation, we're in dire need over here. So I guess that would just be a question in general, is safety and of the students and faculty, if this is where the money's really going to go. And do you plan on going to the endowment folks and seeing if you can loosen some of those strings? And
Yeah,
that's all.
so-
Thank you.
Okay, so I will definitely, being the individual who's really overseeing the safety and emergency management at Lehigh, the need is tremendous. And it's not just a question of having a big blob of numbers here. I can go in and I am the one filing all of the receipts to submit to FEMA. So I got 400 pages of receipts that I have to go through and input. And the numbers are just staggering in terms of what we can do to help students and faculty and staff. So that is 100% what it would be applied to. No questions about it whatsoever. As far as the endowment concerned, to be honest, that was a question that I had as well of the VP of Finance, Pat Johnson, and who Mark knows well. And the reality is that process, in many cases, is very difficult to go back to someone who either one is very aged now or no longer alive, right? They gave the money years ago and now it's in a trust. To go through that process to reallocate it is a little bit like trying to raise the Titanic. I mean, it's a monumental task. And for a lot of the construction money, the constructions, I don't know if you've seen the cranes at Lehigh, but they're all over the place. So, because someday there will be growth, right? There will be, COVID will be passed and things will happen. So it's.
Well, there will be someday, but today, we're in the middle of COVID, and you're saying you have a need today for certain things.
No, and I think that discussion has happened at the VP level, and I know our president, I talk to John on a regular basis, and he has said the same thing, that one of his goals is to reach out to the donors for new money, for what can you give for today's need, rather than reallocate previous funds that are supporting a department or endowing a position. To go back and take that is a lot more difficult. So,
Well, thank you.
You're welcome, absolutely.
Yes, Mr. Motors. Yes.
Good evening. So I'm going to let you know before I jump off that I worked for your competition for 26 years. So I understand endowments, okay? What is your percentage to need-based finance?
Needs-based in terms of students coming?
Student.
Yeah, it's actually much higher than I thought it was. I don't know the exact percentage because I didn't come here with that data. I'm sorry. I could have gotten that from Pat Johnson before I got here.
Because that could have been important to explaining why
Yep.
we would be giving you funds, because need-based is also the same thing as happens with the community college.
Yep.
And to say that, whether it's Lafayette, Lehigh, Moravian, Muhlenberg, DeSales, the education quality that's in this valley is beyond comprehension, and they're all members of Alvaic. And I know about that because I did some procuring, some buying as I was in my department when I became management. So I understand some of these things. Endowment is a different horse of a different color, so I can explain to some members of the council. Specific money is designated for specific things. Like in my end of the business, I had buildings that were endowed by staff. Okay, now I'm going to ask him if they did any cuts in staff. Did you do any reduction in staff? Did they take back any money for staff? Did they do anything else like my previous employer did?
No, the only individuals that took money back were the VPs, 10% pay cut, and the president.
So you guys didn't do anything that the other guys did, and I'll talk to him when he comes up because I'm going to ask him that same question.
No, there was no reduction in force, no layoffs. Where you saw cuts were suspension of travel, right? Suspension of entertainment, suspension of like the retirement plan, right? No more contribution from the university. You'd be amazed at how much money that saves right there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, now, how many international students are on campus now? Because you didn't send them home, did you? You did not send them home because they couldn't go home.
That's right, yeah, we have under 100.
You only have under 100 students on campus now.
Some of them are
They're
actually,
upperclassmen. I'm not talking about freshmen, I'm talking about the upperclassmen.
they're in the area, but we only have about 100.
You only have 100 to 200 international students at Lehigh
No, now.
now?
Because we couldn't get the other 400 or 500 we would get
Okay,
because they can't get here.
so you didn't do any of that, and the NCAA, as far as that goes, we can talk to her blue in the face. NCAA ain't giving them no damn money back because they're greedy. They're going to come up with some excuse where they make money with the NCAA if by chance they get a chance to make it to a tournament and they get some money there. That's where the money's come for that. Understand that point of view, and that's with all of them. But I was trying to get to the point, and I guess you just basically answered my question. But the more important thing is I just want to know what your percentage is financial aid, because like you, Lafayette does financial aid, and it's a good portion of what these kids have to pay back. Yeah. That's why I was hoping if some of the money was going, it was going in that direction. Now, we all need to also understand that there's 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old people that are on campus, and we were that age at one point, and there was no way in hell you're going to tell me I ain't going out to party. So I'm going to be honest about it and say, yes, they're going to go out and get stupid. I cannot believe that you say you're sending them home and they're getting no refund. I can tell you some of them folks at the other schools going to say, like, hell you are, you give me some money back. So good luck with that one.
Thank you. I think the idea is if they go home now, they can get a 10% discount in the spring, right? But not a refund for the fall because of their behavior, right? I mean, that part makes sense.
Is there any other questions from committee members? Council, okay, thank you very much for your
Oh,
presentation.
thank you. Thank you
Really
very much.
informative. Thank you.
We'll try to move this along as quickly as possible because we have quite a bit left on the agenda. And we'll make Councilman Myers happy by asking Lafayette College to come up next. Melissa Starris is here with us this evening, who is the Assistant to the President and the Board and Community Relations.
Good afternoon, everyone, members of council, the administration. Thank you so much for having us today. As Tina mentioned, my name is Melissa Starris. I'm here representing Lafayette College and President Allison Byerly. She had a conflict with a faculty meeting, and with this whole new world that we're living in, entrusted me to be here today with all of you. And with community relations, it's always great and meet different people that are representing us in government positions. So thank you for having us. I also wanted to introduce my colleague, Maurice Luker. He's the Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations at the college. We both are Northampton County residents. I live in Bethlehem Township, and Maurice lives just a few blocks from here in the West Ward. We appreciate you considering higher ed and specifically Lafayette as part of the CARES Act for the institutions. What I thought we could start off with today is just briefly provide an overview of Lafayette for those of you who might not be as familiar with us beyond just the college on the Hill, and then talk specifically about our COVID response. So Lafayette, and not to go way back when I say we were founded in 1826, but we are approaching our 200th anniversary of the college in 2026. We were actually founded here in the county by Northampton County Easton citizens, and it was at that time that they were seeking more educational opportunities. We were founded based really looking to provide opportunities in the liberal arts and education, which continues to be really the center of our mission today. Providing that. We are, unlike some other institutions in the area, we are strictly really an undergraduate. We don't offer any advanced degrees beyond a bachelor's degree. We are primary residential campus. We typically have about 2,600 to 2,700 students on campus or around. And we really are focused on, with the liberal arts and engineering, sustainability, community partnerships through our Landis Center, and then also we have a Dyer Center of Innovation that's relatively new. We also have Division I athletics, which Mr. Myers is very familiar with. And thank you for letting us follow Lehigh. Normally we don't follow them. We like to be in front of them, but today is okay. So just want to put that out there. But under President Byerly's leadership, one thing that she has really focused on with her strategic direction is achieving affordability and distinction through growth. And you might wonder, what does that really mean? So for Lafayette, what that means is we were seeking to expand our student body by about 15% over the next few years, coupling that with additional faculty. And we wanted to be able to provide, and we will be providing and have been, but enrolling and admitting more students based on their highest caliber, regardless of their economic or demographic backgrounds, and also regardless of family financial means. We realize that a diverse student body really adds to just the whole vibrancy and aspects of our campus community, as well as the Easton community. We have about 45% of our students who receive need-based financial aid. About 10% of them are Pell eligible, and 13% are first generation. We are committed to meeting 100% need of students accepted to Lafayette College. So any student that says that they want to come, that we offer admission to, we do look to meet the need. And typically, if any students graduate with loans, it would be right around $20,000 in loans. We really feel that achieving this goal of significantly increasing our financial aid budget in the years to come will allow the college to provide access to education to anyone interested in earning a Lafayette degree. Oh, wrong button. I did want to just point out, because often people think of Lafayette College, and in some of the conversations that you're having and saying, how do we balance a community college with a Lafayette College or a Lehigh University? I should also say that I went to both the community college and to Lehigh, so I'm a product of both. So I guess now you have me to say, does the education like really pay off in the end? So you can judge that after the presentation. But Lafayette College is both a community and economic driver. We really see that our place is that if we can have a vibrant campus, that'll overflow into our community, and a vibrant community is what attracts people to want to be part of our campus. So we believe that we have a strong backyard, we're excited, and we're happy to be in Easton. And over the years, we've really committed to expanding that reach. Currently, we have about 100 students from the Lehigh Valley. Of those, about half come from Northampton County. Our investments in Easton, which is also, as we know, our county seat, have been really linking the downtown and the Hill with our Easton Arts campus off of North 3rd Street. We have some of our offices down in the Alpha building in order to preserve the academic core of teaching and learning and our students and faculty on the main campus. We support things like the GEDP Ambassadors Program. We did follow Moravian, with now we offer a Lafayette Easton Scholarship to one graduating senior annually, so they can attend Lafayette College. And we've also partnered recently with both the PA Water Rescue with providing them some space along the Lehigh, as well as the different EMS where our students go out and they serve. Economically, we are the largest employer in the city of Easton. We also have the largest taxpayer award, I guess you can say. And we also bring in about 90,000 visitors to the city or to this area yearly between our admissions, our sporting events, and other programs that we offer. We do recognize, with us being in a fully remote setting right now, that that definitely is having an impact on our local economy, especially downtown Easton. Annually, Lafayette's economic impact is about $200 million in this area. We do partner with places like LVDEC to really get the word out to both through admissions and our Gateway Career Center to talk about students, families, and alumni. It's not just about coming and being educated here, but it's also about living here and wanting to continue to be part of this community. So we're hoping that more of our graduates continue to stay in the area. Tina mentioned that we've been a proud partner with census efforts, hosting some programs on campus, as well as I was the co-chair with a Moravian colleague on getting higher education to make sure we had a complete count. And we've also hosted some voting machine demos and recently had Amy Cozy on campus, virtually, to talk about just the election with our students and how to get involved. So that's what we typically do, so I hope it just gives you a snapshot and you learn something new about the College on the Hill, that we're really part of this area, we're part of the city, and we're part of the county in very positive ways, being the only, well, until the community college came into Easton, the primary education institution in the city of Easton. But once COVID hit, we really had to readjust and think of who we are and how we're going to operate. So we had some guiding principles that you can see here, but I think the word we keep going back to is the health and safety of our community, which was really the primary guiding principle that we had during this time. We really focused this on how do we meet our mission, how do we preserve our community, meaning our students, faculty, and staff, and keeping us together, and how do we ensure for the vibrancy and health of this group, as well as our long-term financial viability in Easton. So we really wanted to adhere to these principles in all of our decision-making. We did try to preserve jobs as much as we could, and just to preserve people, to keep them safe and be really flexible, knowing that there's a lot of also different work schedules happening right now that we want to be responsive to. So with our guiding principles, we were able to make some decisions, as many of you also did. We decided that we needed to close our campus and we moved to a remote work and learning environment. There were a few hundred students that did remain on campus because of visa issues perhaps, or just that it was a better learning environment to remain on campus. We also then started planning for the fall semester. And we also got out and made sure that we could provide any PPE that we had on campus, knowing that we weren't finishing the semester, to be able to push that out to community partners such as Safe Harbor and the police department and hospitals. In the summer, we decided that we were going remote. I think we were one of the first institutions to announce reducing our density and going to a fully remote fall, which was very different from us because, again, we are a traditional residential campus with all of our students being together. This meant no activities, no athletic competitions, and no visitors, which is something that we're really not too used to at Lafayette College. We also realized that with this, that there was definitely going to be a community impact. We currently have about 650 students on campus. They're either living on or around campus. We have ongoing testing happening. We've had a very low positive rate, which we're very pleased with. And we also have developed different programs to support our students who are more high need, to make sure that their essential care is being taken care of while they're away from home. We do recognize that COVID has both negatively impacted Lafayette, but also because of that negative impact, the impact that we're able to have with our students, faculty, and staff has rippled out to the community. And we know that operating in a remote learning mode hasn't been helpful for everyone else either in the different partnerships that we have. Our community response, just to sum it up, we distributed PPE. We also were providing face shields. We were the primary face shield provider through 3D printing to Easton Hospital. They were going through the transition at the time, and when we learned that they had that need, we really tried to direct those efforts. We also made some stethoscopes for St. Luke's and worked with Lehigh Valley Hospital, as well as the city, police, fire, and EMS. We did this, we were part of the Support Easton campaign early on because we recognized the small businesses and the importance before the funding was really getting out there to support those business owners. And we also provided isolation housing and a vegetable in the community right over on 10th and Pine, where we were able to leverage our agricultural from our farm up in Forks Township with Easton Area Neighborhood Center's urban farm. And we were able to provide fresh produce to residents of the West Ward free of charge. But all of this definitely does come with a cost and impact and a change in how we're doing business. So just to give you an idea of expenses, excuse me, and I have a chronic cough, so you don't have to worry about anything, no other symptoms. But in spring 2020, we really, since the onset of COVID, we did immediately start tracking what our COVID-related costs were. This could have ranged anything from the PPE that we were providing to quarantining students or quarantining space, as well as even having a virtual commencement and how we were able to kind of celebrate our graduates knowing that they were at home and not really doing it the way they wanted to. So in the fiscal 2020 year, we wound up ending with an $8 million revenue shortfall. As you can see on the slide, a majority of these dollars was a result of us refunding our room and board fees, which other institutions have spoken about. And the remaining of it was for PPE, cleaning, and then the loss of event space or event and study abroad revenue. As we're looking to fiscal 2021, we're experiencing significant resident shortfalls. Again, we did move to entirely remote, so even our first-year students are learning from home right now. We're expecting anywhere from a $30 to $50 million budget shortfall this year as a result of this. This is primarily caused by the enrollment decrease, deferrals, leave of absences. The remote learning severely has impacted our room and board revenue, as you can imagine, because there's not really anybody around to pay for it. And we also did provide the 10% reduction in tuition for those studying from home. So we can call Temple too. Give them a little call. I'm not sure it will help, but you know, overall, I would say that cleaning, the testing, the disinfecting, and our IT investments were, because of this remote learning mode, are really our cost drivers that we weren't anticipating in our budget. Beyond the loss, that's just really where we're putting our dollars right now. And IT is so important for us and necessarily hasn't been brought up because being a residential campus, we haven't had distance learning in the past. So our faculty really had to pivot quickly to learn how to do this, to learn how to engage with technology in these ways to become remote teaching learning institution. So we will continue to invest in these areas as well as financial aid because we recognize that COVID will definitely have implications on families as the semester moves forward as well as the year. We're also looking at 2021 right now, what spring will look like. So at the current time, we're discussing what the spring semester will look like. We recognize that the impact of remote learning, not just only on our institution, but does continue to have a negative impact on our local economy, with us bringing fewer visitors, students, parents, and alumni back to town. We were supposed to host Lafayette Lehigh this year, and obviously that's not happening. But we do look forward to a full community return when we feel it's comfortable that we can provide a safety and health return to the Hill for our students. I would just like to end with saying, like countless organizations, you know, higher ed specifically has been incredibly impacted by this. And really a majority of our unplanned expenses, because that's kind of what we were asked to talk about, have really gone to testing, the PPE, cleaning, as well as our IT infrastructure investments to support our mission of teaching and learning. Really, the educational mission is so important, and I would safe to say that really we've looked at all of these decisions on what is the best for the safety of our community, not just at Lafayette, but as well as the surrounding community in College Hill and in Easton. So any type of CARES Act funding that would come through the county would go specifically to support these unexpected expenses that we've been incurring in these areas. And that's what I have at this point. I just wanted to say thank you very much. The sign you see here is what we have all over our campus. We're also distributing them to local businesses where we do have some students on campus where they know where we know they go, just as a way to kind of remind people to follow safety protocol and be present and be aware. So, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Before we get started, we have 10 minutes left in this committee meeting. Are we going to be able to push this into the next committee meeting?
I'll give you some time.
Okay,
Because,
'cause-
do you have the rest of the agenda? Because I'm sorry, I missed the beginning.
We do. We have one more presentation plus 3 more things to go through. We have quite a bit to do yet. So I would recommend that I will not stop questionings at this point, but I recommend keep them to the committee, keep them to the point, keep them to the resolution. Let's not get off point here. We did a little bit in the past, and now we're kind of jammed up for time. So please, if anybody has any questions, and I'm not going to just keep it to the committee, but it's got to be directly about the resolution. We don't need to know, Lafayette's a great college. We know that. We don't need to go into that. So is there any questions on Lafayette's?
Mr. Lott,
Yes.
if I could, I just wanted to say as procedure, since, I mean, the second round of municipal grants and the county relief business block grant, you could always push that to the regular meeting too, because that's really going to be our Economic Development Department coming up and talking.
And it is actually just in addition to what we have already done. So I'd like to continue to see the procedure, but we do need to keep our time in mind. Yes?
I just have one question, the same question I asked for Lehigh. Did you have to furlough or lay off any of?
We did. We furloughed about 35 employees. We also worked to really preserve our community by also redirecting employees to be contact tracers in other areas that we found need as a result of COVID.
Thank you.
Is there any other question? Yes, Mr. Myers.
You also did a 10% cut in people's pay, correct?
We did, our senior leadership team, our president did take, I believe, a 10%, as well as our vice presidents. The rest of the campus employees also have done, except pretty much everyone has done pay reduction as well as retirement reductions.
Yeah, I'm one of the guys who left in February, so I know you did a reduction.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to add to that it was on a sliding scale.
Yes.
Our provost, I received a pay cut like everyone else. It was 6%, but if you went lower down on the scale, it was a lower
Yeah.
percentage.
You might have gotten a 0.5% or a
below
percent.
35,000, there was no cut.
Right. And that was just a way to have equity throughout the distribution.
What's your percentage of aid that's Lafayette's paying? I asked Lehigh, I asked you the same question. Financial aid.
45%, we offer 45%, 45% of our student population receives financial aid.
And we have international students on campus at this point, correct? And you are constantly cleaning there, I understand, a lot.
Yes,
Are they spread out throughout the entire campus?
we're in single rooms right now. Anyone on campus is in a single room.
Well, explains why you're at full staff for the custodial staff. The only thing else at this point right now is, are you amply supplied with PPE that you guys can get?
I feel we have access to it, yes, and the testing as well. And we're also looking into testing measures should we increase the community population for the spring.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Zirinsky. Please keep it to the resolution.
I just want to ask how many people on your campus were infected, if any? 'Cause I think
We've had, is it less than 6?
We've had 6 students and
One.
one employee. We had one announced today.
Yes.
So that made 6
But you
students.
haven't had it spread like we have.
No, and, correct. And that's been since we returned on August 17th.
And they're isolated the minute you put them in the isolation like we've done in the past?
Correct. And we do have isolation housing assigned for this, yes.
Yeah. I was well aware of isolation house. I set up a few.
Thank you for your presentation. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. I would like to hear from our last presentation, and then I'm going to try to do the one thing we did not cover yet is the presentation on community mediation, eviction, diversion, which we'll call from now on call CMed. So I'd like to try to get our last and get that, because the other 2 things we have covered already.
Mr. Lott, could we get copies of these presentations?
I'm sure we can.
Yeah, I have them all. I can definitely email them to Linda to distribute.
Thank you.
The CMed presentation is actually in part Human Services as well, so that might be a good segue into their meeting. So last but not least, we have Byron Grigsby here, who is the president of Moravian College.
The best school percent.
So I apologize. It's been years since I've been in I did bring out handouts if you want them. I thought, I'm so impressed with your technology. It's been years since I've been in front of city council members. I thought that it would be better for me to bring handouts, so I did. I'd first like to, I know we're on a time constraint, but Moravian's closing in on its 300th anniversary. We are the 6th oldest college. I like to remind the governor that we are older than the state of Pennsylvania. We're older than the United States. And we were really set up to be the community college when community colleges didn't exist. The Moravians believed that a society would not succeed if they didn't educate all of their people first. And interestingly enough, they didn't follow the path of the first 5 colleges, Harvard, Yale, and the rest of them, William and Mary, but they set up a school for girls because they felt like you could not have an educated society unless you educated the women first, because the women are the first educators of the children. That was pretty radical for the 18th century. Unfortunately, it's still pretty radical today for many countries. So that's Moravian's history. If you want to know why we're the 6th oldest college and we only have $120 million in endowment, is because of equality and equity. Moravian College wasn't allowed to keep more than $25,000 in the bank until 1953. All the money went to the missions. So from 1953 to now, 120 million is a good investment. So I hope to focus really fast on just a couple of the points to get to what you want. I'm going to tell a different story. We're open. Students, 80% of our students are on campus. We're having a great time. I can't. We have 2 cases right now. They're both commuters. We have had 9 cases total. 5 of them I would question because our students got a little funny about how to lie about their symptoms and then get tested and found out they didn't have it, but then the Board of Health told them, no, you do have it, because those are the Board of Health rules. So I would take 5 out of my 9 and give you that we have had 4 cases. We have been in this since June 1. June 1, we had 500 students on campus. Currently, we have about 80% of our dormitories filled. And so I'm really proud of our kids and what's going on, because you do hear pretty much all the horror stories, and that's not what's occurring on campus. So with that, we had lots of additional costs, and you see those here. In the first thing, I break out all the increased custodial costs. Obviously, if you have students constantly on campus, it's 3 million wipes just to wipe down the classes this semester, in between students coming in and going out. So that's an incredible amount. All our PPE that we gave away at the beginning of when March was happening and everybody was in need of it, now costs us 40% more to buy it again, and we gave it to St. Luke's and the area hospitals willingly, but it's a cost that's there. We had to purchase tents and start outdoor classrooms and stuff like that to maximize airflow, and you can see creation of isolation housing, lots of stuff here you've heard from the other people, so I'll just keep going on. On the second page, you have additional operational costs that have happened. We were very fortunate. We're a place of equity, so all of our students get MacBooks and iPads. So when we transitioned in March, we were ready to go with them having the units, but still in all, we had to train the faculty. And in March, 36% of our faculty said they were comfortable teaching online. By the end of the summer, 97% of our faculty said they were comfortable teaching online. But we had to invest. That's Extension Engine that's there that helped train the faculty over the summer. Additional health center costs and technology improvements. The next page gets to lost revenue that we've had. We've had 30 undergraduates push off to next year. I'm going to come back in the spring. We lost 5 post-baccalaureate nursing students. which just said they didn't want to get involved, as you can imagine, in COVID at this moment. Room and board, we've lost about $1.5 million between the summer of not being able to use the campus because of the governor's shutdown, and then we're down to just under 80% with our room and board right now because we're not fully operational. We're not at 100%. Students chose to stay at home and go remote. And then you see information there about fundraising is obviously down as everybody's worried about where the economy is going to go. So you've all asked the question about what we did, where our skin is in the game. We did this immediately in March because I wanted to solve a budget problem with 18 months of time rather than 12 months of time. So when the CARES Act and the layoffs, the furloughs came available, it made more sense to furlough our employees because they got paid better. That's how the government set that up. So we furloughed 25% of our employees that would not be hurt if they were furloughed or would be receiving more money. We kept their health care on, which was a cost for us. We salary reduced all employees over $100,000. I currently take a 20% salary cut. The vice presidents are around 10%. And then any faculty member making over $100,000 took a 3% salary cut. And the vice presidents have all reduced their budgets by $1 million to cover the shortfall that we are seeing happen. So the final piece is that we have an overall economic impact of about $4.4 million. But obviously with students on campus and in dormitories, cleaning is a constant struggle. And we had to go to cleaning 7 days a week, all high-touch areas being cleaned regularly. So those are the costs we would be asking for this money to go to.
One question.
Turn on the microphone. Thank you. That was a very nice presentation. Is there any questions? Yes.
Did you add additional staff for for that cleaning crew, or?
Yes, we've added additional staff and we've started paying hazard pay for them because we've upped their hourly wage by $1 to $2 an hour because they're in a risk area.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Mr.
Just a
Nye.
question, same question I asked you. Financial aid, what's your percentage?
99%.
Gotta love that.
Well, we are really a middle-class serving school, and our kids come from middle-class working families.
I had a son go there, so okay.
We don't have a whole lot of wealthy kids, but we have a lot of hardworking middle-class families. And the average tuition students pay is about $22,000.
Yeah, international?
We have a very small international program. We've had, the largest we've had is 50. Right now we have about 6 on campus that couldn't leave.
Yeah, they couldn't go anywhere. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
One more question?
Thank you.
Sorry,
Yes.
Ron. How, the grad programs, other than nursing, any impact?
No, they're all running and they're running fine. The DPT, the speech pathology, all the graduate nursing programs, they're going fine. So we haven't had any problems. And I should also say, because Moravian provides your teachers and your nurses. Our teachers have been teaching online to get their student teaching in, which has been really great. The Bethlehem School District, the Easton School District, and Allentown have all supported that. And it's actually fun because the student teachers know the technology better than the teachers, and they're helping them out in so many ways. So it's been good for our student teachers as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation.
I'll send you an application so she can just transfer. Mine made this mistake and went to Dickinson, and she figured it out.
She won't listen to it.
Okay.
Very good education.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a motion from a committee member to move this resolution forward, the resolution approving the funding to assist Northampton County higher education institution? Is there a motion to move forward from a committee member?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Now we're going to do a quick review of the Community Mediation Eviction Diversion Program funding. Ms. Smith? Or whoever handles that?
Hello, everyone. I'm just here to give you a brief update on the CMED program, our Community Mediation and Eviction Diversion Program. As you know, the county developed this program in June as we were very concerned of how the COVID-19 pandemic was going to affect our housing in Northampton County. We are working with experienced mediators and tenant navigators and advocates who have extensive training in mediation and conflict resolution. Those 4 agencies that we're currently working with are New Bethany Ministries, Project of Easton, the Neighborhood Center in Easton, and Third Street Alliance for Women and Children. This program has been helping at-risk tenants avoid homelessness by administering emergency financial assistance and coordinating available supportive services. The tenants must meet income and geographic eligibility. So the process is our tenant navigators will receive notification from either their tenants, the landlords, the courts, North Penn Legal Services, that an individual is in need of rental assistance or is facing eviction. The tenant navigator will have the tenant and the landlord come to a resolution regarding their repayment structure of what is owed, and both will complete the necessary required paperwork for the application. Then representatives at our DHS building will review the paperwork for accuracy and to ensure proper funding streams are utilized, and once all is approved, payment is then sent to the landlord via check or electronic transfer. They have a choice, and it really should take no more than 2 weeks. I can tell you as of today, we have received 93 applications. 73 applications have been processed thus far for a total of $226,574. I can break it down for you geographically. 23 applications were received from Bethlehem, 4 from Bath, 8 from Bangor, 9 from Northampton, 3 from Catasauqua, 2 from Freemansburg, 31 from Easton, 6 from Nazareth, 2 from Mount Bethel, 2 from Penargil, 2 from Walnut, and 1 from Wingap. So we're very excited for this program. It's been helping many individuals, and so we're continuing to accept the applications.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, can you just state your name?
Oh, yes, Robin Barbosa, Deputy Director of Human Services.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
So does this money have to be spent by the end of the year also, or is it a pool of money that can be used beyond the 2020?
Right.
It can't, I would assume.
Was there any other question? Are you done? Excuse me. Are you done? Any other
Yes, that was my
questions?
question.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Morris.
This is just for tenants, correct? We're not talking about businesses.
Correct.
So they find the houses for these people, or?
No, they pay
No,
rent.
they're currently in their rentals, and so they've either fallen behind due to the COVID-19
Thank you.
hardship. Yep.
And that's the whole key to it. You look in and make sure that they are actually fell behind in the rent
Yes.
because of COVID. So they're going to show you job loss or what
Oh,
have you.
yes, we review the applications. They're pretty thick. We make sure all the documentation's in there.
Perfect, thank you. Is
Yeah.
there any other questions?
One more quick
Yes,
question.
Mr.
So
McGee.
if they do qualify, how long do they get to stay on it? I mean, what is the term? Is it 6 months? Is it a set amount of money or?
I believe it is up to 6 months, and there is a repayment plan that is in the application that they have to follow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Perfect. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion by a committee member to move this forward?
Motion to move.
Second.
Thank you. We are not going to go into the review of the second round of municipal grants because it's identical to the first. We just went back and asked anybody else, and we got some coming back, so we can discuss that during the regular meeting. If we have a motion to move the second round of municipal grants to full council?
Motion.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's no description of what they asked for, though. Like, we did have that the last time, so are we going to be able to get that or no? Because like we saw, there was a fire truck. It just says the amount of money, it doesn't.
Yeah, Tina, you're going to get that for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we did get a motion to move that forward, correct? Yes. Okay, then we're also going to small business grants. We were able to, there was a few that didn't catch the second round, and they, for different reasons, didn't get it on time, but we were able to review all those, and those will be brought forward to full council too. There's not a lot of them on the last, but this will pretty much cover every business that asks for grants in the county. Is there a motion to move that forward from a committee member?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzic. And I believe that will adjourn my meeting. Thank you.